Oh God. I'm That was supposed to be a joke of me sipping on some copium to start the video, but maybe it's poisonous because it's ironic, isn't it? Today we're talking about a day of what could have been. Yes, we're talking about Starfield's initial release date, and to commemorate that, to fill the gap in some of your hearts out there, I wanted to have a video just to sit down and literally shoot the shit about this game. Like, there's no real major topic or focus outside of more of a positive look at things, because typically when I sit down to talk about Starfield, it's either breaking something down. Should we be concerned about this? What's the release date? Here, I thought was a good time where literally we're in a review cycle. I'm reviewing a couple of games myself right now where news isn't popping off. There's not a lot to really discuss that. It feels like here and now is a perfect time to just have one of those fun videos where you just talk about whatever. And that whatever I chose was Starfield, what I'm most excited about. And I want to hear what you're most excited about. But more than anything, talking about what could have been, because again, today was supposed to be the day, one of the best Fridays of all time. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here, you're into Starfield news, when there is news and discussions, consider subscribing. I imagine that we will be hearing Starfield news in a short period of time. I did see Bethesda collecting questions for their Constellation question series with a focus on questing. That was a couple of weeks ago. I remember when I went to Niagara Falls, I was thinking, watch, Bethesda's going to like show off the whole quest system that I've been dying to see the week I'm unavailable, but they did not. And so now I'm just wondering, like, when are they going to drop it? So I imagine in the next week or two, we should hear about it. I thought today would have been a great day to drop just something new. It was kind of strange that Bethesda didn't, but that is something we can look forward to. The only real news that we've seen of Starfield as of late was Matt Booty hopped onto the Friends Per Second podcast, and he was talking about Starfield and how it's not really just Skyrim in space, even though that's what Todd Howard said to define his game. But he used it in the context of, like, Todd is more ambitious than just reskinning a game. Like, that's not what he's going to do. So you could argue against that, I think, fairly when you look at Fallout 4 and how it had a lot of new bells and whistles, but at the end of the day, you look at it next to Fallout 3 New Vegas, and it was very mechanically similar, perhaps because it's a known quantity. But then you look at 76, and my God, did that game lack ambition, at least as a consumer. You know, I'm sure it was very ambitious for Bethesda to try to bolt on multiplayer to their creation engine, but as a player, that game did not have ambition in any way, shape, or form as far as I was concerned. So what I wanted to start off, and the reason I bring all this up, is the thing I'm really excited about with Starfield is the ambition that I'm seeing. Of course, it'll translate differently when we play the game, but the number one thing on my list whenever anyone asks me, whether I bump into a viewer on the road or I'm talking to a friend or whatever, is, why are you excited about Starfield, Matty? I'm like, it's the ambition, it's the drive that's there. They could fail. That is absolutely a possibility, but it's the fact that I feel like I'm seeing effort. Now, games don't just come together no matter how good or bad they are. Like, yes, even bad games take effort and thought, which is kind of funny when you think about how disastrous some games have been in the past. But when it comes to Starfield, when we look at its new set of systems, what Bethesda's doing that they've never done before, and the old things that they used to say that were gone for a couple of releases and come back now, that is why, number one, I'm most excited for this game. I just love that we're starting to see actual role-playing game elements put into Bethesda Game Studios games again. I don't know why they ever faded away from that in Fallout 4 and in Fallout 76, because to me, they were playing with house money. They were the top dog within their own brand of Bethesda. You were Bethesda Game Studios. You were the A-tier developer. Whatever you wanted is a go. Why would you make your games more accessible? Why not, like, really keep beefing them up? Because it's funny that the games that popularized them, like Fallout 3, like Skyrim and Oblivion and Morrowind, like, these were all games that were, in some respects, maybe Skyrim less so, more hardcore. Like, there were actual choices, there were branching story paths, and it just felt like they walked away from that because they felt the consumers weren't ready. I don't know why they watered that down, but hardcore Bethesda seems to be back. Now, don't get me wrong, when I say hardcore, I'm not talking like they're going to suddenly go out and do a Larian Studios level RPG where it's just branching everywhere, or In Exile. I'm not expecting that, because of the second reason I'm excited for Starfield is the exploration. When you hear me talk about Bethesda Game Studios and their RPGs, I like the RPG elements, But typically you'll hear me talk about the exploration factor that really grabs me. It's not necessarily the role-playing qualities. Like, I give that more to BioWare. But when it comes to Bethesda and their exploration, in my opinion, even down to Fallout 4 and 76, which people will consider inferior products, I think Bethesda does it the best. Like, just their point A to point B exploration feels so good to me. I just can't get enough of it. So I am always excited to explore a new Bethesda Game Studios world. Yes, even leaning into 76, I was like, man, it's going to be a new BGS world. The problem there was nothing was really interactable, at least at launch. But with Starfield, they're transforming exploration. So it's no longer the horizontal point A to point B that we've all come to know and love, where you just zip, zig, and zag to every single location on the map until it's cleared up. Now it's doing it on one planet and then getting your ship and flying out to space, and then maybe finding a space station that's abandoned up there, exploring that, finding all of its mini locations within it, then leaving and finding a new planet, and then repeating that. The addition of, I guess, verticality, if you will, like going up into space and finding new places to explore based off the game setting is so exciting to me, because it evolves the best trait, in my opinion, that Bethesda Game Studios has had, even in their worst games. Like, say what you will about 76, but its art direction, its exploration were good. Like, going from point A to point B was fun. So more of that, please, and thank you. And I know for a lot of people, the quantity over quality approach scares them, and I think that's totally fair. I'm a little worried about it as well. But, and this is a big but, if it does pan out as we hope it does, which is that there isn't a real sacrifice of that quality content to make the game huge, as in it is already a big, large existing game with some planets just having nothing there. That's fine as long as there's lots of quality content and little settlements to discover on a ton of planets. But the reason I'm optimistic about the planet count is I think, personally, that it would be really sick if they nailed the exploration and I just knew I had that many places to go. Am I expecting 1,000+ planets to be interesting? Heck no. I'm expecting maybe like 100 to 200 of them to be legitimately interesting. It depends how, again, they spread the locations out. Are they going to do what Mass Effect 1 did, where you'll have one planet you land on, it's pretty much empty outside of one base? I'm literally cool with that, because I love how there was this idea in Mass Effect 1 of these like space raiders just dropping off into a derelict planet. No one's really there, and they're running their operation quietly over there until you as a Spectre shows up. Like, I think that was so legit. It just felt like you were combing through into the darkest corners of outer space. So I hope that Bethesda says, hey, instead of like putting 18 locations on like 10 planets or something like that, let's take like one location and just throw it on this planet and just spread the wealth across a ton of maps. Like, to me, that would make the game feel bigger, even if it's technically the same size as what we've seen in previous Bethesda Game Studios games. It's the same way you may have approached Elden Ring. Like, technically you were spending the same amount of time in Elden Ring as you were with some older FromSoft games, depending on your play style and the difficulty and how you interpreted that and how you adapted to it, of course. But the way that Elden Ring was laid out as an open world, where you had the upper level and the lower level, it was just staggering. So this is just a really long way of saying I'm keen for the new planets and the exploration factor in Starfield. I'm also keen on the RPG elements. I like the idea of backstories and traits being added and certain ones being reflected within dialogue, especially when you join certain factions. I mean, oh my God, the factions I'm pumped for, because the factions in Bethesda Game Studios games, I always think of Oblivion, and this game, Starfield, reminds me so much of Oblivion. So the idea of factions in Starfield being here, like, what are they going to represent? Like, what is going to be, if at all, Starfield's version of the Dark Brotherhood, the Thieves Guild, the Brotherhood of Steel, the Enclave? Like, what's going to be that unique sci-fi faction that we find in Starfield? And it feels so Starfield. You get what I'm saying? Like, those personalities that develop the overall universe. I mean, we know we're a part of Constellation. We have a pretty good idea what Constellation will be doing. Like, we're going to seek out this mysterious artifact at the center of the universe, perhaps, or something along those lines. Like, there is a pretty good mystery painted there. But for the rest of them, What are their ambitions, their motivations? That's the stuff I'm really keen on figuring out. So those are like the big three for me. The big three being the ambition, the exploration, and the factions / RPG elements. When you mash all of them together, I'm not gonna do this when I sit down to review the game, but as someone who's a fan and excited for the game, I can kind of just not get too bent out of shape over the shooting. Like, I was rewatching the gameplay before this video, and I was like, this gunplay, man, like, what? I know it's the beginning of the game based on the levels they showed, but like, what happened? Like, how does it look worse than Fallout 4? Is it just this specific weapon? That's something that I think they really need to massage the worries for. I really hope they do, because to me, Starfield as a sci-fi world is like primed for cool weaponry, and when you miss out on that, like, oh man, that would be some serious pain. So yeah, that's just me spitballing, coping. Hope I helped you out today. Get your little Starfield fix on a day that I know should have been much more grand. And let me know what you're thinking in the comments down below. Are you excited for a little bit of Starfield in 2023? I already know the answer to that, but please fire away. Let me know what you're most excited about. And with that, I'll catch you in the next video. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.